Chapter 1: The Problem No One Can Name. Something is failing, even where nothing appears broken. This is the first sensation most people experience. Not panic, not confusion. A quiet unease that persists despite visible success. Despite competence. Despite effort. Lives move forward, yet feel misaligned. Institutions function, yet feel brittle. Systems scale, yet feel unstable. There is activity without coherence. This chapter names that condition. When things fail without appearing broken, failure is usually imagined as visible collapse. A moment when something stops working, falls apart, or reveals its weakness openly. That is rarely how failure begins. Most failures start while systems are still functioning, while metrics are being met, while responsibilities are being fulfilled, while confidence remains intact. The system continues to operate, but it no longer operates together. Signals arrive out of sequence. Feedback is delayed. Corrections feel disproportionate. Small issues require large interventions. Simple actions carry unexpected consequences. From the inside, nothing seems obviously wrong. From the outside, something feels off. This is not dysfunction. It is misalignment. Why intelligence does not prevent collapse. One of the most comforting assumptions of modern life is that intelligence protects against failure. That knowledge, expertise, and analytical capacity will eventually identify problems and correct them. Those smart systems self-correct. History does not support this belief. Highly intelligent individuals make structurally unsound decisions every day. Sophisticated organizations collapse despite access to data, expertise, and foresight. States with advanced institutions repeat failures already documented in detail. Intelligence improves execution. It does not guarantee coherence. In some cases, intelligence accelerates collapse by allowing systems to scale misalignment more efficiently. The problem is not lack of understanding. It is the absence of a shared frame for what must remain intact. The silence before visible failure. Before systems collapse, they often become quieter. Warnings soften. Dissent fades. Discomfort is normalized. The absence of friction is mistaken for stability. This silence is not peace. It is pressure redistribution. When feedback is ignored, it does not disappear. It migrates. When signals are suppressed, they accumulate elsewhere. When correction is delayed, it becomes less precise. Silence does not indicate health. It often indicates avoidance. By the time noise returns, the system's capacity to respond has already diminished. Why blame feels satisfying and solves nothing? When instability becomes visible, the search for cause begins immediately. Blame is attractive because it simplifies complexity. It converts structural problems into personal ones. It creates villains and victims, clarity and direction. Blame feels like action. It feels decisive. But blame addresses agency, not structure. Removing individuals rarely restores coherence. Changing leadership without examining internal dynamics reproduces the same patterns under different names. Replacing systems without addressing misalignment transfers failure elsewhere. Blame explains who acted. It does not explain why the system allowed it. The discomfort of unnamed pressure. Pressure that cannot be named cannot be managed. People sense it as fatigue, frustration, or disengagement. Organizations sense it as risk without location. Institutions sense it as instability without clear cause. Because the pressure is diffuse, responses become excessive or misdirected. Control increases where alignment is needed. Messaging replaces examination. Speed substitutes for clarity. These responses often worsen the problem. Pressure intensifies when it is misunderstood. When this is ignored. When a named pressure is ignored, systems mistake symptoms for causes. Energy is spent addressing surface issues while deeper misalignment grows. Activity increases, but effectiveness declines. Correction becomes reactive rather than preventive. The system appears busy. It is not becoming coherent. The difference between function and coherence. Function is the ability to operate. Coherence is the ability to operate together. A system can function while lacking coherence. In fact, many do. They deliver outputs, meet targets, and sustain operations, all while internal relationships degrade. Coherence requires alignment between authority and responsibility, capacity and accountability, action and consequence. When these relationships drift, the system compensates through effort rather than alignment. Effort hides misalignment temporarily. It cannot correct it. Why modern systems struggle to name the problem. Modern systems are optimized for performance, not reflection. They measure output, not alignment. They reward speed, not coherence. They prioritize continuity over recalibration. Reflection appears inefficient. Self-examination feels risky. As a result, systems lose the language required to describe internal distortion. They can describe outcomes precisely, but not causes. They can identify failures, but not trajectories. The problem becomes unspeakable. The cost of operating without language. When systems lack language for order, they default to substitutes. They moralize. They politicize. They personalize. They spiritualize. Each substitute offers temporary relief. None restore coherence. Without language, correction becomes symbolic rather than structural. Ritual replaces recalibration. Messaging replaces alignment. Confidence replaces clarity. The system continues until it cannot. Why this problem appears everywhere. The recurrence of this pattern across cultures, eras, and technology suggests something fundamental. The problem is not ideological. It is not cultural. It is not technological. It appears wherever systems exceed their capacity for self-examination. This is why similar failures emerge under different names. Why reforms reproduce the conditions they sought to eliminate. Why progress creates fragility alongside advancement. The underlying structure remains unaddressed. The absence this book addresses. This book does not begin by offering solutions. It begins by restoring language. Language for order that does not depend on belief. Language for coherence that does not moralize. Language for responsibility that does not accuse. Without this language, effort intensifies while stability declines. With it, correction becomes possible before collapse demands it. The chapters that follow do not argue for a position. They describe patterns that operate regardless of position. The problem no one can name is not a mystery. It is the absence of the shared understanding of how order behaves when ignored and what happens when it is restored. End of chapter 1.